Namaskarams to all of you from Indian Finance Academy, San Diego. We are thrilled to bring you back-to-back sessions for 3 consecutive weeks. This is possible only because of your consistent involvement and support of these events. I cannot tell you how excited I am to have the pleasure of listening to Sangeeta Kala Acharya Sri TSR Krishnan, not for 1 week, not for 2 weeks, but for 3 consecutive weeks. In a 17th century literary work called Needineri Vilakkam, a fantastic Tamil poet, Kumara Guruparar, says, Tammin Meliyare Nokki, Tamadudaimai Amma Peridendru Agamagilga, Tamminum Katrare Nokki, Karuttaliga, Katradellam Yetre Ivarku Nam Endru. Basically, the poet says, irrespective of how little wealth you have, always look at people who have less than you and be incredibly grateful and happy that you have a lot more. But with respect to learning, irrespective of how learned you are, always look at people who are more learned than you and think you're nothing in front of them. In multiple areas, irrespective of how learned someone is, I think they can easily feel there is so much more to learn when they listen to Sri TSR Krishnan. I am in complete awe of his knowledge of various subjects, be it classical music, our scriptures, history, Sankirtanam and Harikatha traditions, composing, legal opinions on various subjects, etc., etc. In his spare time, he is also an international fiduciary and above all, a huge friend of Indian Finance Academy and one of the most amazing human beings I know. He will be taking us on an incredible journey through the compositions of a versatile Tamil composer of the 19th century, Sri Gopalakrishna Bharati, a yogi who lived a deeply spiritual life. Sri Gopalakrishna Bharati's compositions will make you shed tears irrespective of whether you understand Tamil or not. Sri TSR Krishnan will be covering the incredible variety and class in Sri Gopalakrishna Bharati's music in today's session. We are delighted to have Sangeeta Kala Acharya, Sri TSR Krishnan today. And with me today is San Diego's much revered vocal guru, Rasika extraordinaire, our Indian Finance Academy trustee, and the person whose passion for Carnatic music has ignited so many minds, young and old, in San Diego, Dr. C.M. Venkatachalam. I would like to invite Sri Venkatachalam to introduce Sri TSR Krishnan. This is a 3-part series, and today's session is session number 2. Don't miss any of these sessions. Please tell your friends and family to join next week as well. And you can message them all right now as this is happening. Please mute your session and turn the video off. Please feel free to type questions in the chat window and we will take them up as time permits. Thanks again, and over to Dr. Venkatachalam.
Namaskaram, Revati. That was a wonderful introduction of San Diego and also of Krishnan Mama. Sangeeta Acharya Thiruvaiyaru Krishnan, a Carnatic musician, disciple of Gana Bhushanam Brahmasri Kumaramangalam Srinivas Raghavan, his father, and Sangeeta Kalanidhi's Maharajpuram Vishwanath Iyer, Madhuramani Iyer, and G.N. Balasubramanian. A superb exponent of Sankirtanam and Harikatha tradition, an erudite scholar, encyclopedic knowledge, a professional in international banking, a fiduciary. Above all, a very good friend and a trusted advisor to Indian Finance Academy of San Diego. His knowledge is due to intense research he has done to collect details of the bhajana paddhati in several languages. We bow down to his erudition. Whenever he brought all his disciples to perform for us, I should have shown a picture of this. Maybe Krishnan Mama's presentation will have at least 1 or 2 pictures of that kind. That sight of everyone joining together to see is an auspicious event, Mangala Karamani event. That is what I would say. We look forward to it. He has come many times, but I truly feel he's not come often enough. Okay, this is a beautiful occasion I just wanted to again say the amount of work driven by passion one needs to do to understand the entire history of the bhajana paddhati probably goes beyond 2000 years, and to have a clarity of how it is done. And when he talks, we have always not given him enough time. It's one thing that we feel very guilty of, because the subject matter involves so many details that he wants to convey to you. Just as Revati said, he is willing to convey to you whatever he has. A very humble man, by the way. I mentioned this in the introduction before. When we tend to underestimate people who are very humble. Okay. Welcome, sir, Krishnan Mama. Over to you.
Namaskaram and felicitations to the patrons of Indian Fine Arts Academy, the Board of Trustees and the distinguished musicians dialing from around the world. This is the second session on Gopalakrishna Bharati's compositions and contributions, and as requested by Indian Fine Arts, I will focus on Nandanar Caritram in the third and final session scheduled for webcast on August 28. Before we proceed further, I will attempt to address somewhat very briefly a couple of questions that came from learned musicians and great teachers. The first question was, where from do I get the rarest of compositions of Gopalakrishna Bharati? Examples being Ini Ini Mel in Nadanama Kriya or Nalangida Varam Nataraja Murti in Madhyamavati. They were culled from the manuscripts collected from Kalaimagal, which published Dr. Uvesa's brief biography on Bharati, and also some songs of Bharati in 1932, which were later published in the form of a book or booklet in 1936. The second question was there a significant influence of those Hindustani ragas so learned by Bharati from Pandit Ramadas of Tanjavur court, who adorned that court along with Ganam Krishnayar? We can say yes to a very limited extent if we look at some of the available compositions of Bharati and our ragams used by Bharati and shown in publications since 1912 to 1936. Some of these ragas are being used even today. Behag, Hussaini, Hamir Kalyani or Hamiru Kalyani, Dhanasri are some direct ones, showing the significant influence of Bharati's learning from Ramadas. Some others can also be attributed to that learning process, especially from the delineation of some of the songs in ragas such as Navaroj or Navaroz, Asaveri, Puvi Kalyani, and the like, especially Yamuna Kalyani, do show the influence of select phrases used in the counterpart Hindustani equivalents. We can see those examples in the end, time permitting. But for the time being, for quick reference, I will refer to a table alongside this video based on my notations. This table will be mentioning the ragas and the songs that are available as of today, like Hamir Kalyani, Hussaini, Navroj, Behag, Dhanashri, Asaveri, Yamana Kalyani or Yaman Kalyani. So I think this table should address that question, so I can skip the elaboration of those ragas. In the last session, I narrated the incident in the Thiruvaiyaru Griham of Saint Tyagaraja As quoted in the 1932 manuscripts and 1936 book of the most revered scholar U.V. Swaminatha Iyer, who happened to be the direct disciple of Bharati and who wrote that book after observing him for 3 years as a disciple. This has to do with the song that the disciples were reportedly singing in Tyagaraja Griham when Bharati entered the home. The book quoted the song as Sri Rama Sita Alankara Swarupa, but I forgot to mention then and there that there is no such song by that caption available in any of the known publications of Tyagaraja Kritis. There is indeed a song titled Sri Ramya Chittalankara Swarupa Bhrovumu in Raga Jai Manohari. Many of you may have heard this Jai Manohari song as well as another song by Tyagaraja in Jai Manohari. This particular song, Sri Ramya Chittalankara Swarupa by Mangalambulli Balakrishna Garu, is in YouTube and he has sung this song with gusto. Because of the typo in the original book, many later books and articles in music magazines, as well as by the contributing writers for newspapers such as The Hindu, they all have quoted this song being sung by the disciples of Tyagaraja as Sri Rama Sita Alankara Swarupa in Abogi. I thought I should clarify this for the record. It is more than likely that the Kriti could have been Nanubro Nikinta Tamasama or Manasu Nilpa Shakti Lekapoye. Let us proceed with the current session. Gopalakrishna Bharati became prolific in his compositions upon return from Thiruvaiyaru, and after repeated requests from local and visiting musicians, he ended up composing his own Ganaraga Pancharatnams on Lord Shiva following Saint Tyagaraja. Let me give an outline of these Pancharatna Kritis again very briefly. The first one is from me, and the second and the fifth Kritis are sung by Srimad Shubhapriya Srivatsan, a famous musician from the Bay Area of San Francisco. And again, the third and fourth Kritis are also from me. There is strong belief that Piravada Varam Tarum Ennaya, the third Kriti in Arabi, which I will be singing, inspired Papanasam Sivan, who lived between 1890 and 1973. Shivan followed Bharati to compose the famous Piravada Varam Tarum Pimmane in Lathangi. Lastly, I will be singing only the fourth or the last charanam of Varali Kriti with Bharati's Mudra, as opposed to the yesteryear musicians and the current generation of singers who follow Srimati D.K. Bhattammal, because they sing the Sharanam Nandanar Munivargal Yidera Paramanandam, whereas I sing the last stanza which shows Gopalakrishna Bharati's Mudra. This is just a clarification, because I learnt this particular Sharanam from Mudigonda and Venkatramayar Mama, and because that's the way he used to sing, and this is from the old Paddhati. Let's now listen to the 5 Kritis without any interruption or talk. Hara Hara Jiva Shankara Karuna Parameshwara Hara Hara Jiva Shankara Karuna Parameshwara Ananda Tandavaraya Jiva Shankara Parameshwara Ananda Tandavaraya Puragara Vrishabhadvaja Paripurana Kama Puragara Vrishabhadvaja Paripurana Kama Hara 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 Jivananga Harunatara பரமானந்த கூபமும் பஞ்சாட்சர படியும் கொடியும் வரமரும் சிவகங்கையும் அதிலும் பரமானந்த கூபமும் பஞ்சாட்சர படியும் கொடியும் வரமரும் சந்நிதி கங்கையும் அதிலோ பரவிடும் கோபாலகிருஷ்ணன் பாடிய குஞ்சிதமானோ பரவிடும் கோபாலகிருஷ்ணன் பாடிய குஞ்சிதமான கரிதம மணி கழிந்திடாத ஜன்ம மனித ஜன்மம பரவிடும் கோபாலகிருஷ்ணன் பாடிய குஞ்சிதபானமும் கரிதம மணி ஜன்ம மனித ஜன்மமல்ல ஹர ஹர சிவ சங்கர கருணாகர ஹர ஹர சிவ சங்கர கருணாகர பரமேஸ்வர ஆனந்த தாண்டவராய சிவ சங்கர கருணாகர
சரணாகதமென்று நம்பி வந்தேனுந்தன் சரணங்களையும் சரணாகதமென்று நம்பி வந்தேனுந்தன் சரணங்களையும் சரணாகதமென்று நம்பி வந்தேனுந்தன் சரணங்களையும் சரணாகதமென்று நம்பி வந்தேனுந்தன் சரணங்களையும் தாய கருணா கட்டாட்சம் பண்ண வேண்டும் கருணா கட்டாட்சம் பண்ண வேண்டும் கருணா கட்டாட்சம் பண்ண வேண்டும் தில்லை கனக சபையில் ஆடும் பிரபு அல்லவோ கருணா கட்டாட்சம் பண்ண வேண்டும் தில்லை கனக சபையில் ஆடும் பிரபு அல்லவோ சரணாகதம் என்று நம்பி வந்தேனுந்தன் சரணங்களையும் சரணாகதம் என்று நம்பி வந்தே ஜனநாதி பயங்கள் அணுகாமல் முந்த சிவசாயோஜ பதம் தர வேண்டும் ஜனநாதி பயங்கள் அணுகாமல் முந்தன் சிவசாயோஜ பதம் தர வேண்டும் மனநாதிகள் அறியேன் தவம் புரியேன் மனநாதிகள் அறியேன் தவம் புரியேன் பாலகிருஷ்ணன் பணிந்திடும் உன் திருவடியை மனநாதிகள் அறியேன் தவம் புரியேன் கோபாலகிருஷ்ணன் பணிந்திடும் உன் திருவடியை சரணாகதம் என்று நம்பி வந்தேன் உந்தன் சரணங்களையும் சரணாகதம் என்று நம்பி வந்தேன் ஏ ஏ ஏ ஏ ஏ
இரவான வருந்தாரும் இல்லையா இரவான வருந்தாரும் என்னையா இரவான வருந்தாரும் என்னையா இரவான வருந்தாரும் என்னையா இரவான வருந்தாரும் என்னையானும் ஐமுடையார் கொண்டேத்தியத்தில்லை அம்பலவாயுள்ளோ அலையோனியில் மறுபடி இரவாத வருந்தாரோ அறிவுடையார் கொண்டேத்திய தில்லை பொல் அம்பலவாயில் பலையொலியில் மறுபடி பிறவாத வருந்தாரும் எங்கையா 84 லட்சம் ராசிகளில் எடுத்தெடுத்து இறந்து 84 லட்சம் ராசிகளில் எடுத்தெடுத்து இறந்து உண்பட்டது போது புத்தி வந்ததையா உண்பட்டது போது புத்தி வந்ததையா நண்பத்திடு மனைவி மக்கள் வாழ்வில் தாழ்களோர் மனநிலங்களில் இன்பத்துடு கோபாலகிருஷ்ண கொழுதேதிய ஜகதீதனே இன்பத்துடு கோபாலகிருஷ்ண கொழுதேதிய ஜகதீதன் படராதனே பிறவாத வரம் தாரும் என்னையா பிறவாத வரம் என்னையா பிறவாத வருந்தாரும் என்னையா பிறவாத வருந்தாரும் என்னையா மறுபடி பிறவாத வருந்தாரும் ஆடிய பாதமே கதியும் தெரியும் காண்டிலே ஆடிய பாதமே கதியும் தெரியும் காண்டிலே ஆடியவன் ஆடிய பாதமே கதியும் தேடியும் காண்டிலே ஆடிய பாதமே கதியும் தேடியும் காண்டிலே நாடு புகழ்ந்திடும் இல்லை சிதம்பர நாதன் சபை துலங்க வேத கீதம் முழங்க நாடு புகழ்ந்திடும் இல்லை சிதம்பர நாதன் சபை துலங்க வேத கீதம் முழங்க ஆடிய பாதமே கதியென்றெங்கும் தேடியும் காண்டிலே பக்தியே அருளென்று வருந்தாசோ பாலகிருஷ்ணன் தொழும் நடராஜன் பக்தியே அருளென்று வருந்தாசோ பாலகிருஷ்ணன் தொழும் நடராஜன் சதி சிவாகனை மகிழேசம் சர்வ சாட்சியாய் நிறைந்திடும் ஜெகதீசன் சக்தி சிவாகனை மகிழேசம் சர்வ சாட்சியாய் நிறைந்திடும் ஜெகதீசன் ஆடிய பாதமே வெற்றி பெருகிய மதனை வென்றவர் வேடன் எச்சிலை வாரி உண்டவர் அத்திமாலையை மார்பில் கொண்டவர் அஞ்செழுத்துருவாகி நின்றவன் ஆடிய பாதமே கதியென்றெங்கும் தேடியும் காண்டிலே
மறவாமல் எப்படியும் நினை மனமே மறவாமல் மறவாமல் எப்படியும் நினை மனமே மண்ணு பொன்னம்பலம் மன்றுள் நடனம் மறவாமல் எப்படியும் நினை மனமே மண்ணு பொன்னம்பலம் மன்றுள் நடனம் மறவாமல் எப்படியும் நினை மனமே மண்ணு பொன்னம்பலம் மன்றுள் நடனம் மறவாமல் எப்படியும் நினை மனமே பிறவாமல் எப்படியும் வரம் தருவார் பிறவாமல் எப்படியும் வரம் தருவார் பிசகில்லை பேணி தொழுது பிறவாமல் எப்படியும் வரம் தருவார் பிசகில்லை பேணி தொழுது மறவாமல் எப்படியும் நினை மனமே மண்ணு பொன்னம்பலம் மன்றுள் நடனம் மறவாமல் எப்படியும் நினை மனமே விரிவாகிய மறையோதின போதிலும் இவ்விஷய சம்சார வலை பொல்லாது மறுவாமல் விடாது பிடிபடாது மாயமயக்கம் தெளியாது திருவாதிரை திருநாளில் மகிழ்ந்து வீதி வலம் வந்து தேவர் சபை சென்றுள்ளன் புருவாகிய கனக சபையில் நின்று பாடி கோபாலகிருஷ்ணன் பணியும் திருவடியை வரவாமல் எப்படியும் நினை மனமே மண்ணு பொன்னம்பலம் மன்றுள் நடனம் மறவாமல் எப்படியும் நினை மனமே
Although Bharati wanted to spend all his time in spiritual pursuit, Dhyanam, Mananam and Kavanam meaning in compositions, musicians who were attracted to his creations pursued him relentlessly and became his disciples. Most important of them were Chidambaram Ponnusami Dikshitar, Chidambaram Rajaratna Dikshitar, Mayuram Ramaswamy Iyer and his brothers Natesh Iyer and Subramanya Iyer. Chidambaram Nataraja beckoned him so frequently that Bharati decided to accept Ponnusami Dikshitar's invitation to go to Chidambaram. Dikshitar invited him to be hosted in his home. Dikshitar was also a brahmachari and shared Bharati's interest in seeking Vairagya, Bhakti and Jnana margams for spiritual sadhana through music. It is believed that Ponnusami Dikshitar eventually became Bharati's foremost disciple and took the lead in propagating his compositions. Let's look at some of his compositions, and especially for spontaneity, variety, of course, soaked in divinity. It is believed that Bharati composed about 800 songs, including 3 operas, aggregating to hundreds of songs for Thirunilaganda Nayanar, Yerpagai Nayanar and Nandanar Caritram operas. The background, exquisite beauty and greatness of Nandanar Caritram require extensive elaboration, at least for several hours. Bharati's grip on diction, dialogue and description are not only brisk but also dynamic, waggish poignant, appealing, and captivating as the occasion demanded. The lyrics and the music are an outpouring of creativity, clarity, and incisiveness. Of course, there is a claim that Bharati also composed yet another opera known as Nandanar Caritram, although this has been disputed by scholars and there is no available record of that. An appreciation of Bharati's music will be incomplete without singing at least a dozen of his songs and analyze the exquisite compositional nuances and especially the rhythmic highlights, because he was so special, including Madhyama Kalam, sometimes even in Pallavi, one half of Pallavi, sometimes in Anupallavi, sometimes in Anupallavi and Sharanam, and oftentimes in one Sharanam only. One of the world-renowned and foremost critics of music and cricket, Sir John Neville Cardus, described once about a veritable music composer with the choicest words, which are often used. I would use that for Bharati as well. Sir Cardus said, such a composer understood life in its heights and depths, put his aesthetic reactions, impulses, and put himself into his creations. That was precisely Bharati. Scholars aver that Bharati used more than 150 ragas for his compositions. Of course, he was a contemporary of the Trinity, and it could be anticipated that by then that many ragas were popular. While many of the ragas were those that were frequently used by other contemporaries, he also used ragas such as Nataka Priya. You may remember Shivaloka Mandira and Sarasangi, Mahadeva Sharanam, Ahiri, Ambala Vadanai, Jagan Mohini Ragam for a song titled Jagan Mohini, and Manji, Sanjala Padavenda, many of you are familiar with. Bharati's versatility was multidimensional. After his return from Thiruvaiyaru, the unassuming colossus started composing some of the finest gems which have delighted millions of music and dance followers. They include Yappo Urvaro in Kamas. Yes, it was originally in Kamas. Legend Sri Madhuramani Iyer popularized this particular song in Raga Jaunpuri, or in northern parlance we call Jaunpuri. We use it as a janim of Natabhairavi, and this is from Nandanar Caritram. Let us listen to that song sung by 6 youngsters from Chennai in 2019 in Karpakambaga Sannadi, whom I call 6 angels or Kartikeya Kanniகைகள். I should confess, I supported them all or sang Pinpaatu or Moonpaatu for them. You will see the video now, it's about 6-7 minutes video. The names of those singers are Abhirami, Ananya, Bhavya, Charukesi, Sriya, and Sindhuja. You all know all the accompanying great musicians when you watch the video. Let's listen to the video now.
எந்தன் களி தீர எப்போ வருவாரோ எந்தன் களி தீர எப்போ வருவாரோ எந்தன் களி தீர எப்போ வருவாரோ எந்தல்களி தீர எப்போ வருவாரோ எந்தன் களி எப்போ வருவாரோ எந்தன் களி தீர எப்போ வருவாரோ எந்தன் களி தீர எப்போ வருவாரோ எப்போ வருவாரோ எந்தன் களி தீர எப்போ வருவாரோ எந்தன் களி தீர எப்போ வருவாரோ எப்போ வருவாரோ எந்தன் களி தீர எப்போ எப்போ வருவாரோ எந்தன் களி தீர எப்போ வருவாரோ எப்போ வருவாரோ சேப்பியதில்லை சிதம்பரத்தே சேப்பிய சேப்பியதில்லை சிதம்பர எப்போ வருவாரோ எந்தன் களி தீர எப்போ வருவாரோ எந்தன் களி தீர எப்போ வருவாரோ நாற்பவரும் வந்து நாதனை தேடும் நாற்பவரும் வந்து நாதனை தேடும் நாற்பவர் வந்து கற்பனைகள் முற்ற காட்சி தந்தான் கற்பனைகள் முற்ற காட்சி தந்தாள் எப்போ வருவாரோ எந்தன் களி தீர எப்போ வருவாரோ எந்தன் களி தீர எப்போ வருவாரோ ஆர்ப்பசுக வாழ்வில் ஆனந்தம் கொண்டேன் ஆர்ப்பசுக வாழ்வில் ஆர்ப்பசுக வாழ்வில் ஆனந்தம் கொண்டேன் போர்பதத்தை காணேன் பொன்னம்பலவாண போர்பத போர்வதத்தை காணே பொன்னம்பல பானம் எப்ப வருவார் எப்ப வருவாரோ கோபாலகிருஷ்ணன் போற்றி பணிந்திடும் ஈசன் கோபாலகிருஷ்ணன் போற்றி பணிந்திடும் ஈசன் மேலே காதல் கொண்டே வெளிப்பட காணே மேலே காதல் கொண்டே வெளிப்பட காணே எப்ப வருவாரோ இந்த கலிதீர எப்ப வருவாரோ என் கலிதீர எப்ப வருவாரோ எப்ப வருவாரோ எப்போ வருவாரோ.
Dr. U.V. Swaminathan mentions about 600 plus songs as attributed to Bharati. And some others claim thousands of songs, but about 230 songs are now shown to be available. Significant credit of popularizing many a song from Nandanar Caritram and many other Bharati songs goes to many legendary musicians such as Sri Madhuramaniyer, of course, Maharajapuram Sri Vishwanath Iyer, Srimati Pattammal, Srimati M.S. Subbalakshmi, Sri Dandapani Desikar, Sri C.N. Balasubrahmanyam, also known as GNB, Professor S. Ramanathan, Palgad Sri K.V. Narayanaswamy Iyer, and the like. The next generation of great musicians fervently followed the legends by propagating many of those popular compositions, albeit oftentimes towards the second part of the concert or sometimes as tukkadas rather than as main pieces. Whereas the legends such as Madhuramaniyer, GNB, Maharajapuram Mama and KVN Mama, Srimati M.S. Amma, Srimati Pattammal, particularly also MLV, they all placed those exquisite songs as the centerpieces in many of their concerts in sincere appreciation of the depth of musical excellence and the true spiritual power behind Bharati's compositions. Because this is a lekdam and not a concert, I'll only be making fleeting references by first line singing, which kindly bear with me. Tiruvadi Charanam Yendringu Nan Nambi Vanthen Deva Tiruvadi Charanam Yendringu Nan Nambi Vanthen Deva Deva Tiruvadi Charanam Yendringu Nan Nambi Vanthen. Particularly this song, I have to highlight one part. When we sing that part as Marubadiyum Karuvadayum Guril Thalli Varuthapadutha Vedam. Madhuramaniyer now, when he used to sing this song often, every time he became very emotional singing this line, time and again. I've not forgotten that. And that much of emotion is soaked in this song. The other song that's so beautiful and very popular is Innamum Sandeha Padalamo in Kiravani. This song was popularized even from the times of Satur A.G. Subramanian, G.N. Balasubramaniam, M.L. Vasanta Kumari, Sri K.V. and K.V. Narayanaswamy, Sudha Raghunathan, Neyveli Santana Gopalan, Soumya, Sanjay, and a dozen other popular musicians. I'm sorry, there was no particular reason for omission of the dozens of musicians because for paucity of time I mentioned only a few names. They have enjoyed this song in concert after concert and popularized this globally. Please look at the words and terms used by Bharati and the depth of highest philosophy and spiritual enlightenment that pushed him to choose such words. In fact, I am going a little bit elaborate on this song because in the first session, at the end of the first session, one of the very well-known musicians who was attending the session made a request, can you explain this song from the philosophical point of view? That's why I'm taking the time to just highlight this. Gopalakrishna Bharati had written numerous songs. Many of them, very high philosophy has been put in one term or one line. And this is one such very rare song. Innamum Sandega Padalamo. In that song, the philosophy that he puts it in such a wonderful spin is Annamayam Benum Koshum Thane Andanar Mudal Bulayar Varaikum Pinnamarave Tonude Inda Bedamadu Kane Annamayam Benum Koshum Thane. That's one significant thing which has to be explained properly. Andanar Mudal Bulayar Varaikum Pinnamarave Tonude in the Bedamadu Kane. In Tamil we simply say Pinnam Arave, but we should take it as Binnam Arave Tonude. It's a division. There is no division in the Bedamadu Kane. I am not able to see that difference, a distinction or a division. Andanar Mudail Pulayar Varaikum. Why? Annamayam Yenum Koshum Thane. What makes Andanar or Pulayar or anybody is the Annamaya Kosha. And then the next line is Tannai Arihira Tavame Peridendru Tannai Arihira Tavame Peridendru Taraniyal Gopalakrishnan Sonnadallam Marandu in the Maya Churalil Vilndu Alaindai Shiva Shiva Ni Innamum Sandeha Padalama. He is not saying, he is not addressing Shiva as Innamum Sandeha Padalama. He is addressing us. But Shiva Shiva is just only an exasperation. Shiva Shiva, Ni Innamum Sandeha Padalamu. There are two coinages which I said I will mention here. This is the sheath of physical body, Annamaya Kosha. Physical body or the self which we think, the Kosha is different from the self. The kosha is the grossest of the five koshas. Is, as many of you may know, Annamaya kosha is food sheath. Pranamaya kosha is energy sheath or prana. Manomaya kosha is mind sheath or manas. Vijnanamaya kosha is discernment or knowledge sheath or vijnana. Anandamaya kosha is bliss. These are the five sheaths that make this body into Atman. And it's a very high, profound philosophy. Thus, Annamaya kosha is named from the fact that it is nourished by food. Living through this layer, humans identify themselves with a mass of skin, flesh and fat and bones and the feces. These are the things which constitute the Annamaya kosha. While the human of discrimination knows oneself, the only reality that there is, as distinct from the body, is himself. What is that reality? That is self. The physical body is formed of the essence of food. Birth and death are only the attributes to this Annamaya kosha, not the other four. The Upanishad that explains Annamaya Kosha is Taittiriya Upanishad. That's what Bharati has focused on this. Bharati's one line makes an elaborate explanation there, which we have to find it in Anandavalli, which is the second book in Taittiriya Upanishad. Anandavalli or Brahmavalli they call it. In fact, in the chapter 4 or so, it is dedicated to this specific explanation of Annamaya Kosha. Savaye Purushaha. Savayesha Purushaha Annarasamayaha. That is a sutram there in Taittiriya Upanishad. Insofar as he is qualified for karma and jnana, for acting and knowing right. That is the sutra. Man alone indeed is qualified for karma and jnana, as you know, because man alone is competent to follow the teaching, that is the human being. When I say man, it is man and woman combined. Human being. And because human being alone seeks the end with which they are intended to secure. Accordingly, the Shruti or Vedas say elsewhere, but the man, the self is more manifested. That is the sutra. It's man from whom Shruti seeks to unite to Brahman. Human unites to Brahman, but through self. The innermost being is Brahman through Vidya or wisdom. Annadvai prajaha prajayante. Yakkascha prithivim shrutaha. Ato annaineva jivanti. Atainadapi yatyannantaha. Annam hi bhutanam jyeshtam. Tasmat sarvaushadam uchyate. Sarvam vai te annam apnuvanti. Ye annam brahmopasate. Annam hi bhutanam jyeshtam. Tasmat sarva aushadam uchyate. Annat bhutani jayante. Jatani annena vardhante. Adhyeti cha bhutani. Tasmat annam tad uchyate iti. This is the definition of Annamaya Kosha, turning towards Brahman through the process. Simplistically put, in summarized meaning it is, from food indeed are all creatures born. Whatever creatures have been born, dwell on earth, by food again they just sustain, they surely live because of food, then again to the food they go at the end, because the food which is meant is to the earth. Food surely is the beings of the eldest, therefore it is called the medicament of all. Aushada is medicament. All food verily they obtain who food as Brahman regard. For food is the eldest of beings, thence it is called the medicament of all. Aushada supreme. From food are beings born. When born, by food they grow, and it is fed upon food, and it feeds on beings. That is the Annamaya Kosha's definition. Therefore it is called Anna. This knowledge is essential for people so that they don't discriminate between Nandanar and Pulayar, because this body is nothing but Kayame idu poyyada, kattadaitha payyada. The famous vakyam. Kathi, instead of that, idu sottu padam idu. It's been made of nothing but Anna, to be put in a simplistic form. The next coinage used was Tannai Arihira Tavame Perizandru. The highest level of profound philosophy of existence in one single coinage by Bharati is Vihaya Kamanya Sarvan Bhumam Charati Nispruhaha Nirmamo Nirahankara Shashantim Adigachati. It is Bhagavad Gita Vakyam. In the second chapter, he tells Arjuna, don't squander your birth. Don't be confused. A person who has given up all desires and sense gratification, who lives free from desires, who has given up all sense of proprietorship, ownership and division and distinction, is devoid of false ego. He alone can attain the real peace and the Atman. Uddhetaram Atmanam Atmam Atmanam Avasadayet. Atmaiva hi Atmano Bandhuratmaiva Ripuratmanaha. Elevate yourself through the power of your mind and not degrade yourself, for the mind can be the friend, also the enemy of the self when you start dividing people. Evam buddhehe param buddhva samstam atmanam atmana jahisrutram mahabhago kamarupam durasadam. Tannai arihinra tavame peridu endru. Tannai arihinra. Know yourself. Know thyself. Who you are. Is it just Annamaya or it is something more? Are you made for something else or simply made up of food and you are going to be destroyed as food? Remember that. That is the meaning of this song. And I hope the person who asked this question has some explanation, at least on this song. Of course, the other song is Enneramam Mundan Sannadiyile Naan Irukka Venumayya. I mentioned about this. It has become very popular in Devagandhari. T.N. Seshagopalan and K.V. Narayanaswamy. How popular is this song by singing it so many times in their concerts. Let's look at a very old song. Karanam Ketu Vadi Sagiye. This is Purvi Kalyani song popularized by M.L. Vasantakumari. In fact, whenever people think of Tamil songs and M.L. Vasantakumari, Karanam Ketu Vadi will come right in front of them. The song is so beautiful that dancers have taken this primarily to do their own imaginative abhinayam or how to represent this. And particularly, let us look at the words here. Kadalan Chidambaranadan Illuvarada Karanam Ketu Vadi Puranadayavulla Konnambala Durayanum Porumai Chodika Marimugamanade Karanam Ketu Vadi. In Charanam, he uses the very special usage where it is a Nindastuti. Kallalum villalum katti aditheno. Did I beat you by a stone or by bow and arrow? Is questioning Bhagavan, but he himself becomes a Nayaki and tells the Saki to convey the message to Chidambaranada. Kallalam villalum katti aditheno Kannappan Sheidadaru Kanavinil Tideno. Did I do like Kannappan? Lift my leg and put it on the Shivalingam? Chella Manaikku Toodu Chandravayalreno Cheyyada Kariyam Cheyyamunninreno Karanam Ketu Vadi. Then we go to another song which I had to mention it here. Natanam Adina Vagnagariga Magave Kanaga Sabayim Natanam Adina. This became a sensation thanks to a movie known as Manamalai. That came in 1958. People who belong to my generation here in this audience definitely remember that. This movie was directed by a great doyen those days by name Chitrapu Narayan Rao. And he picked this movie because it was based on a 1914 novel known as Parinita by Sarachandra Chattopadhyay, very famous novel. So that story was taken for Manamale. Of course, Gemini Ganesan and Savitri acted in this. The song Naranam Adina, which became very popular for years and years to come and became a dancer's favorite, was sung by Radha Jayalakshmi and P. Leela. It's a beautiful song. You have to listen. It's in black and white. You can enjoy. It's on YouTube. Of course, we already saw Sabhapati Kaveri in the earlier session. Varuvaro varam taruvaro Sama Irakam varamal Ponadinna karano Swami. This Bahag is every third concert you will see that this Irakam Varamal Ponadinna karanam. In fact, this was popularized by KVN than many other musicians. These are just a few of the very popular songs. Musicians often use brisk pieces such as Adum Chidambarama Ayyo Kutadum Chidambarama. Of course, Eppovar Varavi songs is another brisk piece. Kanakashabhapati Darishanam Orunal Pendal Galitirum. The Danyasi one is very common in Sankirtana Paddhati. Kanakasabhapathiku Namaskaram Pannadi Penne. This Atana piece is another dancer's favorite. And the words are so beautiful. Sanaka Maga Muni Vardodum Sanvidhi Adi Penne. And the Madhyama Kalam in this song is a beautiful revelation. Vidi Valamandu Melai Kopuravasal Nuraindu Kadaludan Sivaka Amikaliku Mandapam Vandu Madhavan Gopalakrishna Bharati Madaindu Nadane Punadadai Kalam Jana Nadai Mugindu Talai Gunindu Kanakasabhapathiku Nadai Mugindu Talai Gunindu Kanakasabhapathiku Pura Namaskaram Manidu Eyandi Thanai Kandu Neendi Mayal Kondai Eyandi Thanai Kandu Neendi Mayal Kondai. This is another advice. Eyandi is Shivan here. He used his own sense of humor and pun and Ninda Stuti in many songs. Of course, the famous song Thiruvaiyaru Govindarajane, which is sung both in Suruti as well as in Sahana. Sanjay Subramaniam really sings this song quite often because this song has got some stanzas which will bring a lot of laughter, and I will leave it for another session. There is also a little bit of Nayandi about the class divisions even within the Brahmin community. That's why this song is somewhat famous. Incidentally, Thiruvaiyaru Govindarajane is also a song for unity. As many of you know, in Chidambaram, Govindarajane is also there. They say actually, Chidambaranathan, the Lord there, Lord Shiva, Nataraja, gave Govindarajan a small portion so that he could be a tenant there. It is a beautiful story for some other time. Of course, there are several from Nandanar Caritram which we are going to see very briefly. Some of those songs which many of you may be aware. Harikatha theriyum avar mahimai harikatha theriyum avar mahimai balavana Adiya perumai harikatha theriyum. First time when it is sung as harikatha theriyum. And then when the second time it is repeated, Ambalavanar Adiya perumai harikatha theriyum. The grammatical yarku is coming in. Arku is a kaloki, and that's what he used. In fact, this song was one of the favorites of Professor Ramanathan. Aye meta kadino umadadi mai aye meta kadino. This is Punagoradi. Chidambaram Pogamal Irupeno Nan Janmatai Veenaki Kedupeno. This is actually the lament of Nandanar. Chivalogadadhanai Kandi Cherithiduvam Vari. Chivalogadadhanai Kandi. Another famous Nandanar Caritram song. The other song which I was thinking about it this morning was the song which is sung both in Purvi Kalyani as well as in Amsadvani. It apparently was originally sung in Amsadvani, சற்றே விலகியரும் பிள்ளாய் சன்னிதானம் மறைகிறாம் சற்றே விலகியரும் பிள்ளாய். Nowadays, of course, we sing in Thiruvaiyaru. சற்றே விலகியரும் பிள்ளாய் சன்னிதானம் மறைகிறாம் சற்றே விலகியரும் பிள்ளாய். Similarly, another song is also quoted in two different ragas and two different books. இல்லை தலம் என்று சொல்ல தொடங்கினார் இல்லை பிணியும் பாவம். இல்லை தலம் என்று சொல்ல தொடங்கினார் இல்லை பிணியும் பாவம். This is also sung in Thiruvaiyaru. இல்லை தலம் என்று சொல்ல தொடங்கினால் இல்லை பிணியும் பாவம். இல்லை தலம் என்று. Yet another song which has been sung in multiple ragas, but the one which has been sung in Mohanam is not prevalent anymore. This Nanda unak indamadi tanda darada. This song was sung by Mudigandan in Mohanam. Nanda unak indamadi tanda darada. Nanda unak indamadi tanda darada. Of course, the famous song Vargalamo in Manji. And I am reminded of a very nostalgic concert by Dr. Vishwa. He sang in San Diego, many may remember. Vazhimarai thirukkudu malai pole paduthirukkudu oru aadu. They will commence it like this. Vazhimarai thirukkudu oru aadu. This is how you will start. And then you will build it up. So that song, I still remember Vishwa rendering it both in vocal as well as playing it in flute. So these are nostalgic, memorable moments. Someone asked me after the first session whether I'll be able to sing completely the song in Kalyani. Kanden Kalitirnen Karunai Kadale Nan Kanden. This is a wonderful Kalyani song, but it will require at least about 5 minutes and I don't have the luxury. Another time I will sing that. The strangest thing about this song is Kanden Kalithinden Karunai Kadalai Nan is in Sadharana Kalam. And then when it comes to Anupalavi and Sharanam, Minde Sannidhi Aregil Nirmala Nirdamunde Vende பொறிபுலன்களை விண்ணவர் போற்றும் பிரானை கண்டேன் கலித்தீந்தேன். Anupalavi itself is in a Durudakala. And the Sharanam is so beautiful. Anadi karpitamagiya mayagajavayum endren அதிசயானந்தம் கொண்டேன் ஆணவமலம் விண்டேன் மனாதிகளை கெட்டாமல் மகிமை பொருந்தியதில்லையில் மாயன் கோபாலகிருஷ்ணன் தோமாதேவன் திருமேனியை கண்டேன் கலிதீந்தேன். It's a fantastic song. Not many people have done this song often, but one person should be credited for popularizing this song so well is Sri Vijay Shiva. And this is a fast tempo of Anupallavi and Sharanam in Madhyama Kalam. We can add probably another 30 or 40 such kirtanams to this special tail end list, and more so from Nandanar Caritram. Bharati admired, advised and admonished his Nataraja Swami through his songs, some of which were questions, some profound statements, and some in utter wonderment. I am reminded of the famous quote of French philosopher Voltaire, Francois Marie Award. When listening to some of the philosophical gems of Bharati, Voltaire wrote, "Judge a man by his questions rather than by his answers." Here, quite often Bharati was questioning Lord Shiva, and he was not actually giving him answers. So I was very much tempted to use Voltaire here because we could judge Bharati by his questions to Lord Shiva. And Voltaire also said, if there were no God, it would be necessary to invent him. Why am I saying this in this context? Even non-believers have admitted experiencing extraordinary feelings or the presence of God when they listen to some of Bharati's compositions. Even atheists felt like repeatedly listening. Even those who said there are no God, but they would happily compare his Nandanar Caritram sessions or music sessions wherever his songs were sung. Bharati had a knack of composing Stalakritis delineating the Sannadhis of famous Chidambaram temple, even in folk-styled song as requested by young women in town for a Chidambara Kumi. The famous song goes like this. Chandu pottu talatalana chandana pottu gumuguna undalazhagi kariyala காலை குவித்து கும்மியடிங்க சாந்து போட்டு தளத்தளன சந்தன போட்டு குமுகுமுன்ன உந்தழகு காரியெல்லாம் காலை குவித்து கும்மி அடியுங்கடி. Chidambaram is unique in that it is also worshipped by Vaishnavites. Bharati makes a subtle pun. He says, Chidambaram endre sollamaale idai Chittirakoodam endru solli Nidam kondaadum vayangargal vandu nindirukkirar idai paarungadi Chandu pottu in Madhimavati. And finally he sings something so beautiful in his self-realization. Akasalingathai kandenadi inge ஆறுமறியாமல் நின்றேனடி ஏகாந்தமாக இருந்தேனடி மனத்தேக்கம் தொலைந்தது பாருங்கடி சாந்து போட்டு. Look at where he began and how he really took it to the philosophical end of it. That is Bharati. As though young girls and women were begging one another for visiting Nataraja Swami. The main lines of this Kumi became a popular dance song in a famous Tamil movie, Sivagangai Seemai, that was released in 1959, the year after Manamalai was released. For that particular movie, Vishwanath Ramurthy also did the music and Kavigar Kannadasan wrote the script lyrics. Finally, he was so tempted that he produced the movie itself. Sivagangai Seemai was done by him. Bharati's spontaneity impressed his contemporaries. So, Kannadasan decided to take that tune and they have a very famous song, Chandu Pottu Talatalanna, Chandana Pottu Gumugumunna is in the movie, but that was taken from Gopalakrishna Bharati. In fact, oftentimes I call him Ashukavi or Varakavi. You know the meaning. Ashukavi is somebody who is, give him any subject, he is so spontaneous. Varakavi is somebody in whose mind something comes up and the next minute it becomes a song. He was both. His spontaneity impressed all his contemporary musicians around that time. During a visit to a friend's home, Bharati witnessed an altercation between two people whose friendship was terribly threatened by a borrowing turned sour. One was a borrower, one was a I would say, sucker. Bharati opined to his friend that it is better to be a donor than a lender if friendship should not be in jeopardy. He went on to sing an extempore song, Parthu Kadan Kodungal, in Kapi Ragam. And that song is, evaluate very critically before lending. Because the minute you become a lender, then everything else is lost. And the three stanzas have started with invaluable advice to the material world of today. பார்த்து கடன் கொடுங்கள், மனிதரை பார்த்து கடன் கொடுங்கள். அனுபலவி. பார்த்து கடன் கொடுக்காவிடின் பணம் போகும், பழுதை போலிருந்து பாம்பு போலாகும். கொடுத்த கடன் வெறும் அடகு விசாரம், ஓட்டு கச்சேரிக்கு போவது கோரம். கடுத்து கேட்டால் அவர் மனம் விகாரம், களவு போனால் துன்பம் அது ஒரு வாரம். If you lose the money, the pain is for only 1 week. Whereas you give the money and it doesn't come back, for years on, it bothers you. வாது வழக்குகள் பேச கொண்டாட்டம், வாரண்ட் வந்தால் காரைக்கால் ஓட்டம். That is where the judges used to sit. That is the main court for disputes. பாதகம் இல்லாமல் குடியிருந்தீட்டம், பகல் திருடர்களில் இவர் சேட்டம். So the borrower is probably compared to the daylight robber. பல்லை காட்டி பணங்களை வாங்குவார், பணத்தையும் திருப்பி கொடாமலே தூங்குவார். அலும் பகலும் அலைந்தாலும் தந்திடார், அளித்தவர் வாழும் தெருவிலும் வந்திடார். So the borrower will avoid the street where the poor fellow who gave the money forever. All these funny things he packed it in a very beautiful song, although it is so satirical and so humorous, but that is the message for general public, not in that century, centuries to follow. Let's now very briefly look at Nandanar Caritram with the available time possible. I will now leave the podium to the moderators for questions from all of you on the aspects so far mentioned or referred to in the sessions 1 and 2. Primarily on the background, Bharati's skills as an exemplary composer, or rather a unique composer, a Vagayakara, contemporary of Karnataka Sangeeta Trinity, and finally on his spontaneity as an Asukavi, as I said, spontaneous poet, or Varakavi, one who could sing on any subject at the instance of thought. God willing, we will continue this session to the final session scheduled for August 28 to focus exclusively on Nandanar Caritram. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shri TSR Krishnan. Absolutely enthralling, session. And I would like to specially thank you for including the piece on Innamum, Sandeha Padalamu. I just requested that like last week, and so much thought, effort, and research has gone into it. And this is the mark of Shri TSR Krishnan. The amount of love and effort he puts into each and every little thing. Thank you. Thank you so much. I would like to request Sri Venkatachalam to say a few words, and then I'll hand it over to Sri Shekhar to finish up today's session. We will certainly take up questions next week.
Namaskaram. We are absolutely attracted by your erudition, but also very rare compositions that you brought to light. It gives us a feeling, how come we never heard this? This is so lovely. This is the feeling that one gets. I also would like to comment about your saying how Vishwa sang in San Diego. So I have a message to everybody that Indian Fine Arts Academy does this service. And if you missed that concert by Vishwa, and if you missed this lecture by Sri Krishnan, you have no idea how that music was. So I'm very glad that you still remembered Vishwa's visit, and and many of the songs Vishwa also would sing. Natana Madinar, he would take a very special interest in it. One of the things I was intrigued was this multiple ragas in which a given composition is sung. just wanted to get your ideas about how this happens. Let us say I hear Gopalakrishna Bharati sing it in one raga. Will I change it? No way. So, what are your thoughts? How raga changes happen? Even though ragas may be quite interesting, I understand. Ragas, more interesting ragas can be selected. But there are reasons why Vagekara is given as a particular raga, isn't it? So please comment on this. And of course, in the case of Tyagaraja, we know that a few raga changes have happened. But this may be after Tyagaraja, I might say, because by the time Gopalakrishna Bharati visited Tyagaraja was really old and he was very young. So as the time progresses, how come there is change in this raga is a very intriguing question. Please.
Namaskaram. The question that Dr. Venkatachalam raised is not only relevant to every Vagyayakara's composition, but also a painful reminder as to how much liberties we take with compositions of great people. We have no business to change the raga of any composition if we know from the disciples or from published books that this is the raga in which the composer did. Because the very meaning of Vagyayakara is, as I said in the prior session, the musician is a composer and his passion comes out, his emotion comes out in the form of a raga and the words. They are actually in sync. But what happened was subsequently, we had already taken our Sankirtanam into what they call as chamber or kacheri music. The reason why I had so much of hesitation, I'm very reluctant to use some strong words. The kacheri word itself was unfortunately thrust on Karnataka Sangeet. Kacheri means, many of you know, it is only a dispute resolution. Unless the musician and the accompanies have constant fight on the stage, it cannot be a kacheri. Kacheri is only when they want to resolve the dispute on the stage. But the problem was, it was only to impress the patrons. So when a musician is called to the court of a jamindar or king or something, he thinks, oh, this jamindar likes Natakurinji, or this jamindar likes Puri Kalyani. Why should I sing in Shama? Let me impress the jamindar, because the jamindar has no clue of Gopalakrishna Bharati's song. He could even be a dunce. He only knows Purvi Kalyani because last time he gave me a Sanmanam for Purvi Kalyani. And he was impressed with my Purvi Kalyani. Let me insert the Purvi Kalyani into this. That is one possibility, which is a very, very specific possibility because it's all money-minded thing. Whenever we try to sell our music in one form or the other, always this kind of dilution comes in. The dilution turns into something. There is an old kahavat or adage saying, if a lie is repeated by a famous man 20 times, it becomes truth. ஒரு பெரிய ஆளு 20 தடவை 10 தடவை பொய் சொன்னானா அந்த பொய்யே நிஜமாயிடும். This is a common thing. So when a musician is so popular, he is very demanding at that level. He sings a particular song in one raga. Do we dare do that in Tyagaraja Kritis? There are some other Tyagaraja Kritis where you don't even dare touch it. Would you ever touch Chakkani Raja and say, no, I like it in Saramati or something? The fellows there in the audience will come and beat you up. Because they have already put the structure, Swarupam, composition in one mold, that if you pick one of them, that will be like picking a bird, removing the feather, and only the body will remain. So, I am also having the same unhappiness about the ragas that were published in the 1899 book, which is pretty authentic. And then there was a 1912 book. These are all the original ragas. Professor Ramanathan makes a very detailed effort of what were the original ragas and how the ragas got changed. I'm not saying that Enneramu Mundan in Devagandhari is an amazing piece, but that might have been an amazing piece even if you sang in Arabic and if you had not been given in Devagandhari. If one particular raga is used for one song, popularized so many times, the mind always gets it in the layer and you enjoy, you start singing along with it. Just like when I say Karanam Gettuadi, nobody would dare change it because it has been popularized 1,000 times. You will sing in Karanam Gettuadi, in Purvikilani, you will dare not change it. So the sad thing is, we have not given Gopalakrishna Bharati the same amount of importance that we would give for Muthuswami Dikshitar or Tyagaraja Swami or Shama Satil. Karnataka Sangeeta musicians of today, or maybe even the yesteryears or something, they took liberties with all other composers, but they reluctantly kept the original structure of these, accepting that in a couple of movies, some of the famous popular musicians, cine singers, have changed the raga of Tyagaraja Kriti, put it in a different raga, and that has become, because it has been seen by 10 million people in a movie, they think that is the original raga Tyagaraja Swami composed. That's why I said if a lie is said 20 times, it becomes truth. That's what has happened. Am I for it? Absolutely not. And absolutely, because these are all very divine. You don't mess around with history. You do not mess around with any composition. And we have already messed around. That's why Gopalakrishna Bharati should be promoted. In the original ragas, people start singing, saying, this is original. Kindly retain this. Because the structure he put it was, he invested so much thought into putting that ragam and structure together.
So let me thank you very much for that. And if you think that you get angry, it is very justified. So many years ago, so many generations ago, this problem has been there. It's very seen in this thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that very insightful question. We really learned so much from the answer as well as the question. Again, I don't think we can thank you enough. So I am going to give this this difficult job of thanking to Sri Shekhar to make it adequate enough for this wonderful presentation.
Yeah,
Yes,
which I'm going to plagiarize the two people who have sent in beautiful description of today's event. One by he described the session as rain of musical nectar soaked with bhakti, bhavam, and pristine Senthamil. What an experience. I mean, that's a way to describe today's session. And the second one is a person, a friend of mine, classmate of mine, T.S. Ramji. He describes it as a soulful program with the harmonium, particularly the singing part. I'm reminded of the Harikatha by Balakrishna Sarasrigal of Nandanar Caritram. So these can describe what a beautiful program today's session was. And as it was described by Revati as well as Dr. Venkatachalam, so much of work has gone in to get this program together. And of course, our sincere thanks to you, Sri Krishnan sir, as well as to Sri Lakshmi Narayanan for making this program possible. And I'm sure that Mami was intensively involved in doing all the research work. So our sincere thanks to her as well. And also, I want to thank each and every one of you for attending this particular session. As Dr. Venkatachalam mentioned, please mention to others. I think we are going to put together the final edited version in our website. Our next program by Thiruvaiyaru Krishnan sir is on next Saturday, which is a Nandanar Caritram. That starts again at 6 o'clock in the evening which is Sunday morning, 6:30 a.m. of India time. US time is 6 p.m. Saturday evening. Once again, our sincere thanks to all of you, and have a good day in India and a good night in the US. Thank you.
Can I say for 30 seconds?
Sure.
28th is Gopalakrishna Bharati Part 3, that is Nandanar Caritram. But a day before that, 27th August, that is on the Friday evening in the United States, which is Saturday morning in India, we are commencing a different kind of Bhagavatam. We did a Bhagavatam Prasangam like this for 150 sessions earlier using a Narayaniyam as the base. This time it is another great musician, exquisite Vagayakara, who was actually an incarnation of Vyasa, Narayana Tirtha's Krishna Lila Tarangini is going to be inaugurated on the 27th of August. So just to accommodate Nandanar Caritram, which was a later edition, so 28th is Nandanar Caritram, 27th and 29th are Narayana Tirtha's Krishna Lila Tarangini. That is intended to continue for several weeks, if not several months, because the entire Narayana Tirtha Tarangini for the first time is going to be touched upon on every slokam, every gadyam, every churnika, every song that Tirtha did, so that it will become for posterity a library. God should give us the strength. If any of the people who are interested, who have been, of course, I know, I'm told, nearly 1,000 people watched in Facebook, and between all of that, last program, if even a fraction of them would like to be getting the Zoom link, please contact Dr. Shekhar or Revati, so that they could give at least the Zoom link if you are interested in continuing. That's also going to be a musical Harikatha. That's on the 27th of August, just for information. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Please like our Indian Fine Arts Academy Facebook page. You'll be informed of all of this. You can also find links for past events. I quickly want to mention that the wonderful question on Innam Sandeha Padalama was from Vainika Vidwan, Vidushi, I should say, Srimati Nirmala Rajshekar. And it was absolutely blissful to listen to your explanation of that again. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.